Hi, I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
The only way to have power is to be politically engaged, which means you have to vote. In order to vote, you must be registered. The only way to have power is to be politically engaged, which means you have to vote. In order to vote, you must be registered. The only way to have power is to be politically engaged, which means you have to vote. In order to vote, you must be registered. Welcome to One Hartford. Once again, it's time to talk about all things political here in the city of Hartford, Connecticut, the capital city of the richest state in the nation. Joining me, of course, are usuals. We've got Gerry Pleasent. Good morning, Gerry. How are you?
Good morning. Fine.
It's good to see you. And, of course, we've got Mike McGarry. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Steve.
So how are you doing?
Oh, getting by somehow.
Good. So what's on your mind and what's happening in the capital city in the past week?
Well, we're in a race for time here, Hartford. The budget situation we're in is pretty terrible, as we discussed before. But there's actually a lot of positive things all around the city. And when the outcome of those positive things will be good, but there doesn't seem to be enough open time to be able to catch up.
If I may inquire here, you say a lot of positive things, and you say that with great jubilance.
Are you ready?
But pray tell.
Okay.
Where do you see this flow of positive?
Okay. Capewell, down the street here. We've had about 4 different developers come and go. We finally have one that's going to do the Capewell old nail factory. Okay. We have much in the way of Hartford home ownership popping up. Do you realize that our grand list now is 53% residential and growing? And residential is more steady than all kinds of commercial. Commercial comes and goes. The Hartford is going to invest $140 million rebuilding that whole facility up on Asylum Hill. Now, they'll get a tax break and taxes will phase in, but in the long run, it's pretty good. Of course, the Travelers is almost done with their big investment. Same thing. They had a tax break, but it's kind of coming in. I saw many developments. I'm on the Board of Assessment Appeal. We saw many developments around the city, people coming in trying to get a break of taxes, which is okay. So there are some significant developments around the city coming on board. The Adrian's Landing piece is not very taxable, but it will create wealth. And I think what's coming to cities, and what's going to have to come to cities, is a piece of the sales tax. In the long run, the property tax system really can't work that well anymore, because business personal property, they used to base it on that. It's becoming less and less expensive and easier to move. Okay. As you mentioned earlier when we talked, they're going from California to Texas. And a move like that for a headquarters is not a big deal anymore, because electronics is so easily replaced.
Right. So
you can't, basing your economy on business personal property and real property is pretty tough in the city. Commerce is the name of the game for cities, and cities should get a piece of the commerce, as they do in many other cities around the country.
Well, a lot of places have right to work tax, regional taxes, sales taxes.
Regional sales taxes, yeah.
But you mentioned about the move. For those of you that are unaware, we were just talking about Toyota's move from California to Texas. And, while that's good for Texas, it's terrible for California. But it also sets up a pattern that wherever you are as a city, you could be under threat.
No, sure.
Somebody could move tomorrow.
Well, we're lucky that our big ones, the Aetna, the Travelers, and the Hartford, have invested significant amounts of money here, so they're not going to move. The Travelers, look at it; they still got the stuff, things on the building, on the tower, is still working on it. But we do need the big jump. There has been 2 or 3 big moves downtown in the Class A office buildings. 700 jobs are moving downtown. So we have seen significant progress, but it's a race against time. The budget situation that we're in, they're got to put some fixes in, and they put some fixes in over the last 4 or 5 years, but they haven't added up to enough to affect it. Now, the moving of the parking facilities from one part of government to the other kind of going to create money. It's like the Fed. We're selling, with quotes, the cash flow and the physical assets of the parking authority, which is one side of the city, to the pension authority, which is the other side. The pension authority is no more a different part of government than the police department is.
Right.
It just has another name. The cash flow to the city of Hartford is about $1 billion. If you add it all up, including the pensions. So a piece of the cash flow is going from here to there. Essentially, the current mayor and the council, if they go along, are creating money, just like the Fed does. But you can only do that once. Not like the Fed can do it every year if they want.
Right.
They have been doing it,
Right.
they continue to do it. But we can only do that one time. Will that 2-year window be enough to see us through the next 3 or 4 years until these things I'm talking about come online, until we downsource government to where we can afford it? I don't know. That's a tough thing.
Well, if you downsource government anymore, you're going to be breaking government. Now,
Right.
police department is talking about, or the mayor is talking about in his proposed budget, rolling back some police entities. How does that impact things?
Well, Sam, this is something I do know something about. While they may have the authority to roll back things, I don't think they have the understanding of the consequences associated with these things, with some of their actions. As I understand it, we are not going to have a police class coming up in the spring.
Correct. That's in the budget.
Okay. However, the amount of policemen who have retired and who continues to retire will place us in a somewhat perilous position, because we are going to need, you're going to need police to perform infinite number of functions.
Right now, don't they work for the MDC more than they work for us?
The street
Well,
assignments.
wait, well, that's
tearing up the
look,
entire city.
Be thankful there's an MDC and
Well, the MDC is,
That's-
I think the MDC is I mean, as an entity, never mind the governance structure, but I mean, as an entity, it's pure genius.
yes.
Unless you drive down
Yeah.
the street and hit some of those potholes that they made.
right.
Boom.
But when the public sees a policeman standing there looking in the hole, be thankful that he's there, because
It's like
MDC is paying for that.
That's right.
Yeah,
With a premium.
not only are they, well, wait a minute,
They're paying
hold
for
up
it
there.
with a premium. I know.
Right.
There's a premium
You
associated.
know, but the
with it.
MDC is like other entities. You know, MDC doesn't make money; it takes money from you. So, in essence, you're paying for it.
Our water bills are
Well,
paid.
what are your water bills? So, I mean, we pay for everything. It's sort of like the little shell game with the parking authority.
Yeah, that's right.
It's still the
Money
same.
goes from here to there to here, and ends up here.
But
Yeah.
you were saying,
Okay, but in essence, they are paying for that policeman's salary. Not only that, they're paying the city a premium for having him there.
Yeah. Well, we understand all that. Stan, let me ask you, you're the expert here. Has the advent of some of these technologies, I don't particularly like, made the police more efficient?
No.
No? What about when they read the license plates and they catch these guys that have stolen cars or stolen plates? Isn't that quite a jump? And they, now, used to be, a fella I know that owns a junkyard or recycling place, or whatever you want to call it, used autos, said every third car in the city of Hartford is illegal. Now, with reading these plates, that must reduce that.
I laugh,
Why?
but there's much truth to that.
well, then why now? Okay, so if every third car in the city really doesn't belong here, this should be
Well,
like.
if there was
I mean,
if
there
was
should be
greater
a
enforcement-
daily.
If there was greater
A daily
enforcement-
rendering of these illegal cars, and they should be taken off the street.
I see quite a few pulled over to the side now. You know,
Yeah.
well, that, now you've got the experience. If you are of the criminal element, and those guys, as you know better than I do, they don't pay attention to any procedure, right?
No.
Procedure, they run for procedure, including registering cars. Now, if
Right.
they know that they got a good chance of being pulled over because of this
But
new
what-
license plate thing,
Right.
will they stay out of town?
They'd be more cautious. They'll find a new way of getting around it.
Oh, okay.
But you know,
Yeah.
How
but
are you gonna get around a license plate that's wrong? What do you do, paint in new numbers? You know.
Well, Believe
You mean
me,
they'll go
yeah.
straight? They'll actually buy a car and register it, pay taxes, pay insurance? They'll do that now? You know, they'll join the middle class?
But it takes manpower to run the license plates and things.
Not anymore. They push a button and it goes beep, 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 and they pull a car over. Right?
Almost.
Yeah, I know.
Almost.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've seen it happen right for me.
You put the information in, and as you're canvassing a neighborhood, if that particular license plate shows up on the program screening, the beep will go off,
Yeah.
and you have a target.
Yeah.
What about the boot? Now this, I don't know whether this is a policing issue or a policy issue from council. What about the boot? You know, with the lock you put on the wheel?
Right.
You know, what?
Well, here's the problem. Let me get to it. You got experience in this, and I want a comment from you. I think our system now causes all kinds of problems because it's quite often incorrect. I know a fellow whose wife was in the hospital. In 2 hours went by and he got a ticket. The ticket guy ran the numbers, and it showed that he had some back tickets going way back that he didn't even know about. So he towed the guy's car while the guy was in the hospital. It's my opinion now with the technology we have that if you can, quite often you can, get a hold of that person before you tow, it'd be a lot less brutal than what we see now. It is brutal. This guy's in, wife's in the hospital, comes out, he's got no car, there's all kinds of problems, all his wife's in the hospital, and the system was wrong. Those bills were paid years ago, it wasn't really his bills. So this guy's car got towed incorrectly, but he still had to pay this and pay that and pay the other. And the guy's life was ruined for a couple of days.
Well, I know how that feels because my wife took our car to the library, and you know I just have this thing about paying tickets for eating breakfast at Ashley's. So long story short, they towed my car, but they're ruthless. I mean, you got to have cash. And you gotta bring the cash down. Then you gotta go get your car. And until you take care of that, you're not gonna get your car back.
Well, I'm going to start a mini campaign once we get through Hartford Blooms that be changed. That if they can get your number, and today they can't.
You know, you're correct. Some things do need to be changed. There's the element of extreme insensitivity.
Yeah.
Extreme.
Right.
You know. Now, I have seen some people argue with the officer over issues like this very successfully.
Well, they must be arguing with sensitivity. But and Mike makes a good point, and I think it speaks to what he was talking about. They're there. I mean, you know, it's what you don't know the circumstance. The person obviously owes, or at least in theory. So you know you're going to sanction him or penalize him. But you could at least give him a warning, particularly when it comes to his car, because this is a major means of transportation without which you're stuck.
And could be health and safety, certainly. It's certainly aggravation, certainly insensitivity, you're right.
I end up telling one officer, when the facts are on the table, arguments are useless. However, officer, you don't have the facts on the table.
Right.
In fact, the table is missing.
Quite often it's incorrect, yeah. Now, can we get something positive? Are you ready? I got something really good, Stan.
Tell me.
Hartford Blooms. I'm going to brag about that.
All right.
Now, this is a little poster, shows you some of the information about Hartford Blooms. It'll be a citywide garden festival from June 21st to June 29th. 9 days of flowers and parties and receptions and tours and lectures all over the city of Hartford. We have such wonderful gardens here that people don't know about.
We do.
And we want to make those a kind of cause célèbre for a whole week, or more than a week, 10 days. And it's worked. The idea came from 20 years ago with me and Mike at Buffalo.
I remember.
In Ireland. We went to Ireland and we saw how wonderful Ireland was with flowers. I said to me and Mike, "Hey Mikey, how come Hartford's so boring? And look at Ireland." He said, "Mikey, it's your job, my job. What the hell was I going to do?" My wife thought up the idea of those pots they see around town.
The Hartford Blooms?
Hartford Blooms.
Yeah.
We've seen those now for 20 years. And then we also thought of the Blooms Awards that were going on most of those 20 years. And now we jumped from that, jumped 20 years ahead, 17 years ahead. I went to Buffalo. Buffalo has the largest garden festival in the country, based on the kind of stuff we can do here. what they did is they built up neighborhoods like Ashley Street, like Burton Street, like Columbia Street. To take a street and you use that street and you make it a painting with flowers. And people then will upgrade the porch. Oh, garden looks good, let's fix our porch. Whoops, we got the porch fixed, we better fix the roof. So it's catching. And it caught on in Buffalo. So I went there, spent three years actually researching this stuff. I met with the people in Buffalo. I went and visited their garden walk thing, watched it on the internet, read all the articles, and with a 3-hour long lunch with the people that run it. Now, a good idea what they did. And we're taking their ideas with their blessing. Because we get Buffalo commercial every time I talk about it. And with their blessing, we've taken all their ideas and integrating them into Hartford. And taking different areas of the city, day after day after day, tying them all together in this 9-day thing.
Now, these are gardens all over. The Butler McCook is involved?
Well, let me tell you, it's from the governor's residence.
Okay.
Governor's residence with the statuary park, they have it now, to Cedar Hill Cemetery, to Butler McCook, to Harry Beecher Stowe, to the Colt Building, to the Ashley Street, Burton Street, Columbia Street, Charter Oak Terrace. It's tours in the north end, the south end, the east end, the west end, everywhere.
Now, is this structures as well as gardens? Because you said the Colt Building. Now, I lived at the Colt Building for a while. Is there a garden there, we tore the structure?
You'll be able to go up in the dome.
Okay.
And somebody in the dome will point out how the Colts used to have a greenhouse over there, a wheat field there, and a cattle field here. They'll explain how the Colts used agriculture and architecture together. This would be architecture, history, gardens, and good times, receptions.
All right.
Just like Buffalo. They have such wonderful architecture in Buffalo. Frank Lloyd Wright houses all over the place. Buffalo was like Hartford in its day. A very rich city. It's still 5 times the size of Hartford, Buffalo. Actually, the market area is about the same. We're a market area of 1.5 million. Buffalo, depending on what you count, 1.5 million. But their center city is 500,000.
All right.
So they're 5 times the size of ours. So I will be to the scale, not as big as Buffalo. Buffalo has, in one day, one weekend, 350 gardens to visit.
Wow.
And in the 6-week period they run this thing, they have over 1,000 gardens. So that's pretty big compared to us. But we'll have dozens of gardens available. Private, public, some you've never seen before, some that'll be spectacular.
Now, so this is all open to the public?
Right.
So then, is it open for like the public to bring cameras, video cameras, all those kinds of things, take pictures, and
there'll be a booklet available soon, and the booklet will have everything in it. It'll be like a newspaper, like a magazine booklet, and that booklet will be the ticket to all this stuff. Much of it you can walk in and see whenever you want anyway, like the Rose Garden, or like the law school. But you'll know how to do it, when to do it, how to do it, where to park, all that from the booklet.
Okay.
So we'll have a booklet available. So there's some good news for you. Despite the budget problems, despite the crime problems, despite the police department, there is some good news.
All right. Well, let's go back to the bad news just for a second, because Gerry was trying to make the link between global warming and crime.
Yes.
So bridge the link for us, because I mean, where you were going with this a little earlier was kind of interesting, because with natural disasters as it relates to crime.
First of all, I apologize for not having the rest of the team here. The Reverend Brown couldn't make it today. I provided Olga with some information on the same topic, global warming, and I will get into that in a moment. I will not go into it too much until the others are here with me. The Smithsonian Magazine put out this month a very interesting article on global warming and how it will impact many of us crime-wise. Already, as a country, we are not producing as much agricultural goods as we heretofore were able to do, and a lot of that has to do with the ability to produce these products from global warming. Now, the water level has increased in some places 8 inches, 10 inches. That may not seem like much, But if you get a storm or whatnot, you will be surprised how that 8 to 10 inches
Turns into flooding.
will impact the area that it hits. The southeastern United States will be greatly impacted. It's interesting that the state of South Carolina several months ago saw fit to do its own study on global warming as to how it will impact the state of South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina coast. They're predicting that in 10 years, that South Carolina will take on a weather climate similar to Florida. That's disastrous.
Well, disastrous as that may be, since man is kind of limited in his divinity in terms of making these things go away.
But bear in mind, man always plays God.
Well, he's not playing God when it comes to the weather, unless he's controlling the weather. And if he's doing that, then we've got a bigger issue. But Gerry, how does this impact us in terms of crime? Because we're not going to stop the weather from getting warm or cold.
Because we will have less.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on, Gerry. Come on, what do you mean less?
The food supply,
we've always found a way around
it will impact our food supply. It will impact where we live.
Well, it has in all the history of the United States and all the history of the world. I mean, it's too bad. A lot of things are too bad, but
if you know what's to come,
you try to avoid it.
You try to avoid it. You try to say, look, these are the negatives. What are we going to do to offset this?
Let's get the Chinese to stop burning coal. Let's get the Indians to stop buying cars. Let's tell impoverished people around the world who can't become middle class. I mean, all these things are going to affect global warming if we have impact on it.
Right.
If everybody in India can afford a car, guess what? You're going to have a lot more air pollution. Everybody in China now wants to buy our big old clunker cars, and they use coal to give them
China has
the money.
Huge problem with pollution, which of course leaves the continent and goes to the rest of the world. So I mean, now that we know this, we have issues we can't control, like our budget. And so I mean, how are we going to plan the influx of individuals? Look at North Dakota. They've got people coming to their state by the droves to do work with oil and all of this stuff. So, I mean, people migrate, people move, people go, they come. I don't see where the clarion call to rise up to prepare for is there because of global warming.
Okay, so we all will be on the same page here. I didn't provide you with the material that I ran off. The others have it. I will run off a copy. I will give it to you. I will give it to you this week.
Yeah.
And you may be surprised when prestigious magazines like the Smithsonian and some states.
I can get with the prestigious magazine. At the end of the day, what are we going to do about it? Whatever the problem is and however it's presented doesn't eliminate the need for a solution. Does it offer a solution, or does it just sound an alarm?
If you know what the facts are, then to some extent it would be up to you to form your own solution. There's a national approach to it, and there's a geographical approach to it.
I don't really embrace the whole global warming crisis.
Well, it may be happening.
I mean, it happens, you know.
Okay, I can see.
I remember when the Earth was global cooling, and the second ice age was coming.
Why did they call it Greenland? Because
once upon a time
it was green.
It was green.
Let me tell you a quick thing. We had a Dutch guy come one time and explain why this was a perfect why man can affect the environment, and connected it right here in Connecticut. Connecticut used to be one big swamp because of the beavers. Every little stream was blocked up and made swamp all over the place. Now, along came a cold snap in Europe, right about the time Europeans were here. And beaver pelts and beaver-lined coats were the thing. So they wiped out all the beavers, or most of them. and it's Connecticut. They got almost all the beavers. They had to go all the way into Canada and upstate New York to get beavers because they really wanted them. In a few years, no beavers. Dams broke down. The silt layered, right? The water, the freshet came year after year after year. Freshets knocked the dams down. Silted Long Island Sound. But it also made meadows of what used to be swamps, making Connecticut the finest farmland in the world, the Connecticut Valley. So the man's effect there was pretty direct. We killed the beavers, the beaver dams broke, we had meadows rather than swamps. And now, because of all that, we have silt in Long Island Sound, which helps Long Island Sound and also hurts the Long Island Sound. So, Jerry, you never know sometimes the move you make what's going to happen.
Everything affects
Stan, I'm going to
everything.
provide you and Mr. McGarry, with the material, and upon reading it and digesting it, at another date, would you comment to our audience what you have learned?
Sure, I'll be certain to do that, yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I like solutions to whatever the problem is. That's my deal.
Let me tell you one of the problems with solutions. I mean, for 4 years now, there's been a plan to put a greenhouse on top of the landfill, right? Idea we thought, not only me, but other people thought up. Everybody thought that was a good idea. I was reading a note from Louis Cotto, 3 years old. Louis Cotto, of all people. For those who don't know, Louis is kind of a left-wing working families party guy. Very nice fellow. I just don't agree with him politically. Even he agreed. The idea we could put 150 people to work on top of the landfill solves some things you're talking about, because we grow our own food right here, cheaply, cleanly, everything's organic, right up on a landfill. You grow up, not down. You wouldn't go down in the landfill. Your greenhouses grow up, from rock wall. They grow up in rock wall and it goes up. Anyway, that's been sitting on the desk of a bureaucrat in City Hall in the Public Works Department for 3 years, just sitting there. So what will happen is, if you're right, and you probably are, there'll be effects of our agriculture, other effects, people will find a solution. Maybe they'll take that plan off of the desk and actually put 150 people to work and grow tomatoes and cucumbers and marigolds and everything else right here. A couple of blocks, about a mile away, you can see it from here. So, Jerry, they'll find solutions, and we're glad to see your information, but we've always found solutions. Remember 10 years ago they said we were going to be owned by Saudi Arabia? Now we produce almost as much stuff as they do.
Right.
That's because of technology. Those of us that are optimists think that we have enough brain power in America, and enough ingenuity, enough to take a chance at this, that we'll find solutions to these things. But you're probably right. There's probably problems we got to face. There's a problem every day, though.
Well, I think I think as we are running out of time here, I think that we will always have a solution. I think one of the issues we have to be careful of is in pointing out the problems that we don't get mired and stuck in the problem. Here's my closing example. The amount of time, money, and energy that's put into defending our power grid from cyber attacks, which is a legitimate threat.
Yeah.
The study, the defense, the infrastructure, yet Weather and Trees put out more power lines than any cyber attack could ever hope to be successful in doing. So, sometimes we're so focused on other areas that we forget the things that are probably going to affect us immediately and the most. So, it's easy to find problems and thus a solution for, but, how practical is all of this global warming research and thus the alarm? But we should do a show on global warming. We'll get some scientists in here and everything.
Read the material, then in a couple of weeks come back, and you can comment to the audience. Well, I am of a different mindset.
We'll get Art Horn in here or somebody like that, because I'm not a scientist.
Yeah. Let's get somebody else.
Don't bring Brad Davis.
Right. My perusing through those couple pages was.
Well, all I know is this year all our global warming is working fine. I can't even grow greens, whereas last year I had greens. I'd give you some, Yeah. This year I had dandelions. They're growing. Chives, they're growing. Mint, that's growing. And asparagus, nothing else.
Every year I buy the Farmer's Almanac this year.
We're out of time, Jerry. We're out. See you guys.
Okay.
We'll see you next
done.
week.
Okay. What's the Farmers Almanac?